the place I'm in now is very different to the place I was. I actually had a bankrupt business and I was 50K in debt. And then comparing myself, because I was in business at that point, I think for 2 years. We had a nightlife event company. And one of the events went bankrupt and we still had contracts with these big artists. So they forced us to pay 50 grand. Well, we had zero a month coming in. Like this was our entire baby, everything that we built. All of our money went into it. And nightlife events business sucks. The business model sucks. Profit margins suck. Like at the end of the events, we would actually almost have to fight people to get out. Like in the city I lived, like people would literally come to our events just to start fighting people. So we would literally have to like kick dudes out together with our security team at the end of the events. And I was like, why am I doing this to make like 15 grand at the end of the night? And it took me like 2 months to prepare for the event, et cetera, et cetera. I was just like, there has to be a better way. But yeah, we went 50 grand in debt because we had to pay the contracts, or honor the contracts is a better way to put it. And I was good. I was smart. I was just as smart as I am now. I know a lot more now, but I was just as smart and just as diligent and disciplined. But comparing myself at that point, like the guy working at McDonald's was wealthier than me. So I kind of had to make these like mental construct of like not comparing against anything other than myself. Because when you I'm a big believer in the information that you put in is the result that you get in life. Like if you try to bake a cake with garbage, no matter how good of a cook you are, it's not going to taste good. And same thing, if you want your life to be amazing, you have to listen to amazing information. If you're consuming the news, if you're consuming all of these toxic Twitter accounts, if you're consuming everything that is negative, you have a negative input. And by definition, a negative input cannot become a positive output. And where was I going with that? It's just you have to filter your information sources. And by doing that, by default, you should be listening to people that are ahead of you. And if you compare yourself against them, it could be very depressing. Like if you compare yourself against rich, you're like, man, I don't even have a penny in my bank account compared to him. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like this comparison thing is like, it's interesting.
I think there could be a healthy way of envy though too. I think envy can be used, and everyone uses it in a negative connotation. But I think if you see, people can be inspiring. For example, Richard, to me, yes, if you start comparing yourself, you should never do that. But if you're like, I want to be, I want to be that rich guy. I want to be that guy who can do anything, who doesn't owe anyone anything, who doesn't need to show up on time when they don't want to. Like they set their own schedule, all that stuff. But how do you get there? One thing I found helpful, and everyone can do this. Take a look around. You don't have to compare yourself to other people, but if you look around at your friends and family and everyone else in your life you communicate with, and you see all the actions they're making, and you see you watch them compound. If you watch them for the last 10 years or so, you see you see a lot of decisions they make, the house they buy, the car they drive, all this stuff. And then are they working? Are they coding? Are they doing a side hustle? Have they stayed at the same job this entire time? Do they have any ambition outside of just, retire at 60 and hopefully be okay? All those type of things. Are they making decisions that compound in a positive direction? Or are they making decisions that compound in a negative direction? Because I look around sometimes and I see a lot of the people I care a lot about, and I see them keep making the same bad decisions or the decisions that don't lead them anywhere, but more of what they're already getting already. They're not going up. They're either staying the same or going down. So compounding in a positive way, that's the way I found to start, not comparing yourself to other people, but to start elevating yourself in that way.
Yes, 100%. I like that. The thing that I kind of noted down here is I think the biggest differentiator, because I'm a big believer in not judging people on where they are, but on where they want to go. And one of the things you can see, there's two things, and I tweeted about this today actually, is when you look at most people in the eyes, there's no fire left. They have no passion. There's no that zest about them. Like, I want to do something with my life. I want to build things. I want to build a beautiful life, whether that be with the family, whatever it might be. Everybody has different motivations. It's just like this thing. I think it's very intrinsic to people where you're like, I'm not comfortable here. Like when I was a software engineer, I'm like, I am not comfortable here. This is not going to be my life. And I think what was the saying again? I think it was, I like this saying a lot. You get what you tolerate. If you tolerate your life, if you tolerate being fat, if you tolerate being lethargic, low energy, having no financial future, making the investment decisions, being a degenerate in crypto, it's as long as you're comfortable with that lifestyle and that version of you, it's all you're ever going to get. Like if somebody disrespects you and you're like, I'm cool with it, well, guess what? You're going to get disrespected forever and ever. At some point, you're going to have to put your foot down. If it gets physical, it gets physical, but you have to draw the line. Like, I'm not tolerating this. And that applies to everything in your life. Like whenever I don't see my six pack, I freak out. I am uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm slacking. I'm not doing my diet. I'm not going to the gym. This is not who I am. I am not comfortable here. This is changing, period. And I think it's this, they call it internal barometer, where like, and this comes back to like having this absolute dream version of myself being built out. And that's what I'm constantly comparing myself against, the ultimate version of myself. And I'm like, this is not what this guy is doing. So I should stop doing it, because that's not going to get me to where I want to get to. And I'm not comfortable here. I'm comfortable over there. And just the closer you can get to that, the better. And it takes a hell of a long time. I think the missing variable in everybody's equation is not the fact that they don't work hard. It's not the fact that they're not doing the right things, which is obviously a big part. It's just time. Time is a variable that everybody misses. I kind of hit my escape velocity point where like the yield on my investment funds my lifestyle, where then you have more breathing room to actually invest into stuff, right? Whether that be with your time and energy. It took me 5 to 6 years to get to that point. And in those 5 to 6 years, you just kind of felt stagnant. Like with the financial situation, there's a saying where when it rains, it pours. It seems very dry for a long period of time. And then when things click, they really click. They really click. And it's never this linear thing where you have like 10 grand in the bank, 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand. You're never going to get there. It has to be through some exponential curve. And that's maybe figuring out a different business model, or investing into the right thing, or going into a different way of living life, or whatever it might be. Because there's also ways to arbitrage. Like if you're living in a high expense city in the US, just moving to Eastern Europe in one of these low cost cities, even though you're earning 7 grand a month, maybe remotely, well, now you're a king. So there's a bunch of variables that you can play with. And I think Alex Hormozi was the one that said this, is wealth is relative. Like depending on what your lifestyle expenses are, if you're living in Silicon Valley and you pay 10 grand a month in costs and you make 12 grand a month, you have 2 grand a month net. But if you're making 10 grand a month working remotely, and your cost of living is 2 grand a month, now you're a hell of a lot more wealthy, even though you're making the same amount of income. Damn, those were a bunch of topics.
It's great. I just wanted to synthesize too. I like the just going back a few minutes ago about not comparing yourself to other people. Maybe it's don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to the best version of yourself that you can think of, and then that's how you keep climbing to know if you're there or not.